Welcome to Aiken this week. I'm Emery Langston. As has been the theme of our show for many weeks now, there's a lot of exciting things that are going on in our city, and I am so pleased today to be joined by Dr. Sean Alford, our new school superintendent for the Aiken County Public School System. And thank you, Dr. Alford, for being here. We really appreciate you taking the time out of your schedule to talk to us for a few minutes.
We appreciate the invitation, Emery. Thank you so much.
Sure. Well, we have a new city manager, we have a new mayor, we have a new school superintendent, so we have some new leadership and some key roles, and I think all of you have not had a year on the job yet.
No. You're right. You're absolutely right.
And I think that you just hit your 6-month mark.
Yes, ma'am.
And that, you've really hit the ground running. And I've looked at some information that you have put out that's very impressive that we'll talk a little bit about today. But as we get started today, Dr. Alford, if you could just give us a snapshot about your background and kind of what brought you here.
Absolutely. I've had the opportunity to work in a number of school districts in South Carolina, and although I'm not a native South Carolinian, I've been here for many years, beginning with that small stint, those 4 years I spent down in Charleston at the Citadel, and just really grew to love South Carolina and really wanted to commit my service in a professional sense to the students and families of this state. But had an opportunity to grow up in South Florida and really had wonderful mentors, great educational experience, great parents, family circumstance, and it's just really inspired me to make sure that all of our children have a safe and wonderful, nurturing home environment, and they also have an opportunity to achieve their goals, hopefully through a very strong educational experience.
Sure. Well, I think that's a perfect segue to my next question, because your passion for education just really comes out very strong in you. The plan that you have put together, pulling a lot of community folks together to be a partner with education, is very involved in that process. But what life experiences have you had that sparked your passion for teaching and for learning and for the whole educational process? Can you share some of that with us?
I think my parents were probably the major contributors in that regard. My mother was my very first teacher when I actually went to a Head Start program. And I had the advantage of being in Head Start for 2 years. So I was there as a 3-year-old and a 4-year-old. But they always instilled in us, myself and my siblings, the importance of having a scholarly vision, scholarly practice. And they modeled that. My father pursued a doctorate degree. My mother, on the other hand, finished an associate's degree at the technical college, the community college. But they were relentless as it relates to their supervision of our instructional process. But then I also had great teachers. I had great role models. Probably my favorite teacher was Miss Mary Sarkin, who was a first grade teacher. She was my first grade teacher, and she did something for me that really changed my trajectory. She pulled my desk and she sat it right next to hers. So for whatever reason, I can't tell you, it could have been good or bad, but she sat my desk right next to hers, and once I finished my classwork, she would always give me something extra to do. And she would encourage me, "You did that so well, I want you to do these things now." But not only did she encourage me, she kept me after school. And I can remember her telling my mother, "I want him to be a part of my knitting club." So after school on Tuesday, as a first grader, I would sit in a knitting circle with Miss Sarkin, about 4 other young ladies, and myself, and we would knit. And my piece was just never right, And it was kind of dirty because, you know, I was a young man and I was playing in the dirt outside all the time. So my piece was never the way I wanted it to be. And she asked, she said, what do you want to make? What do you have a vision for? I said, I want to make a set of mittens for my grandmother for Christmas. Long story short, my piece never really materialized. But the day before we left for Christmas break, Miss Sarkin reached in her bag and she handed me a brown bag at my desk and she said, these are for you. And I opened that bag and she had taken my piece and she had knitted a full set of wonderful mittens for my grandmother. That imprinted on me.
Sure.
How a teacher can just do small things. They give so much of themselves to every individual child in some way, shape, or form. To this day, as an old man, Miss Sarkin is my favorite teacher because she just took the time to treat me as if I was special.
Sure.
Our teachers do that every day.
Sure. And
Yeah.
I grew up with a mother who was a public school teacher, and I can relate to the time, to everything that goes into what teachers and educators do
Yeah.
on a daily basis, on the weekends when they're making lesson plans and grading papers,
Right.
and there's so much more planning and taking the time with the children on an individual basis. And I'm so glad that your first grade memory of your teacher was so special, and I'm sure that knitting circle too was an educational opportunity in a whole different way too.
She had a plan. She had a plan.
Well, Dr. Alford, you have developed a very concise entry plan that is very well laid out, looking at the first goals and phases that you wanted to tackle during your first year. It's a wonderful document that folks can find on the website of the Aiken County Public School, the main page. Okay. And I think it goes over 4 goals and 2 phases of implementation. So where do you and your leadership team stand with in terms of the implementation and the recommendations that you made in the entry plan going forward? So where are you now?
It's a work in progress. There are a number of recommendations that were short-term recommendations that with the right support and the right focus we could accomplish quickly. There are some things that will take a little bit more time.
Sure.
And a whole lot of collaboration. So progress is moving, I believe. It's a team document. You know, I get so much credit sometimes, and I think it's unwarranted. We have a great team of professionals here in Aiken County. You know, great instruction. We've had quality schools for a long time. We have an opportunity now with the synergy that's in this community to just be a little bit better than we always have been. And that's the approach and that's the perspective that I try to take in that regard. So these recommendations, these goals are really focused and they have an intent to improve upon the wonderful things that have been here for a very long time. We want to make sure that kids come to school, they feel safe, they know that they will be supported, there's a nurturing environment. We want to make sure that parents know when you send your kid to school, we're going to stretch them. You know, I believe that there's nothing really wrong with a little bit of positive stress, particularly in the academic arena, but we want them to be their very best. I think that's what parents expect from us. But then also the community should demand that we be financially responsible and we take that trust with a sacred perspective, and that we do everything we can to allocate the resources that we've been given so that they maximize the impact for students. That's really the gist of the plan.
Yeah.
You know, it's a multi-page, multi-recommendation plan, but it really hovers on those 3 things.
Yes.
Safe schools, welcoming schools, strong and rigorous academic expectations, and make sure you do the right things with the blessings that you have.
Sure, absolutely. Well, I know that the community engagement piece is so very important to everything that you have laid out, and it hits on all three of those points. Why is it important to you that the community have a voice in the public schools?
I believe, and I've said it publicly many times, a school system or a community school will only be as great as the community demand it be. Our job as a school system is to make sure we are producing high quality citizens for our community, for our nation, for our world. If we don't have consistent communication with members of the community regarding what those expectations are, what those needs are, what those aspirations and desires are, then there's a good chance we may miss the boat. So it's really a matter of trying to triangulate and get a good understanding of what is it the community wants as an end product. And that just takes a lot of conversation, particularly in a time frame where the 21st century workforce, you know, we know there are specific needs. We know there are specific fields that need to be filled, but there's a whole lot that we don't know. Technology changes every day.
And so fast.
So we're really trying to prepare great citizens for a world we don't know a whole lot about and we can't project.
Sure.
So it just takes a strong dialogue with members of the community to make sure you get as close as possible.
Well, it's very holistic. You know, looking at talking to stakeholders in the community and making sure that you're getting the input. And what a challenge! I mean, what a challenge in today's education system. You know, 20 years ago, we kind of knew what the future would hold, but with technology, things have changed rather quickly. So that is a big challenge. Following your initial entry into the school district, you had a countywide listen and learn tour.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that was very eye-opening for you. How have you continued that process in soliciting stakeholder feedback, and can you kind of tell us about your impressions from the tour?
It was an absolute blast. But probably the most important aspect of it was that it was not me just by myself visiting with stakeholders in the community, but the entire leadership team participated. It certainly was not my listen and learn tour. It was an opportunity for the leadership in our school district to touch bases with our stakeholders. It's just that simple. But I tell you what, Mary Glenn Piccolino, she did a wonderful job, a masterful job of making sure we were where we needed to be to hear the things we needed to hear. But boy, I tell you what, it wore us out. High level of fatigue in that regard, a lot of travel. This is a huge county. I know more about Aiken County now than I ever have in my entire life. I can tell you what New Holland is. I can tell you what Petticoat Junction is. I can places that I'd never even seen or known of. But we've had an opportunity to touch bases with folks who have an interest beyond their student, very proud citizens in this county, and they want Aiken to be the best in many ways. And you just don't know what those things are if you haven't grown up here.
Right.
You don't know what those things are. You don't know. You don't have a real grasp on what those aspirations may be, so you just have to be humble. You have to be humble, and you have to ask, and just in a very clear and concise way, say to people, help us make good decisions on behalf of our community, on behalf of our kids. But it was a wonderful experience. It really helped us kind of plant our feet solidly as things move forward.
Right. We do have, our county is the size of a state. So I'm sure that was, I mean, and there are, a lot of schools in this
Yeah.
entire county. So, and we're going to touch on that in a little bit. Well, I know something that is so important to the fundamental of education, literacy.
Yes.
And so how are you impacting that early literacy piece?
Early learning, foundational literacy, is paramount. The research has strongly supported that notion for decades. As public schools, you're somewhat challenged because our legislative mandate and our funding does not allow us to move beyond 5-year-olds and sometimes 4-year-olds. So kindergarten readiness is something that we really want to impact, but you have to leverage a number of community resources and individuals who have that mission to hopefully build some synergy and making that work. So we've really extended a hand to a number of the agencies and what I consider to be cornerstone organizations in the community. A great example of that, this past week we just started what's called Baby's First Teacher Initiative, where we've partnered with the medical center, the Aiken Regional Medical Center, and Vance and the folks over there. They're just wonderful to work with. We've partnered with Aiken County's First Steps, with PEP, Public Education Partners, and the Aiken County Retired Educators Association. Multifaceted partnership, but we've been able to train volunteers, retired teachers, to visit with new mothers, sit bedside and have a conversation with them to help them understand the importance of reading to your child, cognitive development in the early years, to share with them a couple of small books, age-appropriate books and toys, to help them work on gross and fine motor skills. And I think there's no one that's probably more qualified to speak to a young mom or a new mom than someone who's been a parent or a grandparent for a number of decades.
That's right.
And have taught hundreds and thousands of children.
Yes.
And that's an impactful time for a new mother.
Yes.
Very receptive. So we're just excited about the opportunity to engage or intersect at that point.
Sure.
With a small message that says, welcome to Aiken County Public Schools. So that hopefully when that child gets to 5-year-old kindergarten, he or she is well prepared for a solid academic experience.
Right, planting that seed early.
Yes, ma'am.
With those tiny new little people, and very receptive moms. When you're that is a very innovative initiative. And you're right. I mean, it almost seems like a no-brainer, but it's new, and what a wonderful pairing. And the best of success with that program.
Thank you. We're excited.
Well, we were talking just a second ago about how large this county is, and a large district, 41 schools,
Right.
I believe. And previously we were split into 5 areas, a little bit confusing on some levels. And I understand that you would like for Aiken County to be one school system. And not a whole bunch of little ones. And can you talk to us about this and why that is important to you?
It's important to me. It is. Clarity of purpose, clear lines of communication, expectations, but most importantly, without that type of synergy, it is very hard to establish an expectation that every child in this district will receive a high-quality education. If we define that 5 different ways, from the start, we may not have clarity of vision. Execution in itself is hard enough, but to do it 5 different ways makes it very hard to meet what I consider the spirit of public education to be.
Sure.
It doesn't matter where you live. It doesn't matter who your parents are. Many of our children, most of our children can't drive. They certainly don't sign a lease. They don't rent a home. They don't buy a home. They don't have choices in that regard.
Right.
So it is unfair is not the right word. I think it would probably be egregious that they have to, because of where they live and choices they have not made, be subject to an educational experience that is not the same
Sure.
as someone else. That's something that is part of my core being. So it's something that I don't shy away from. I have no reservation with saying to anyone at any time, we're just not going to have and have not schools. We're not going to do that. Not saying that the area concept in the past facilitated or promoted that. I can't comment to that. I was not here in Aiken at the time.
Sure.
What I can speak to are the things that will take place since I've come here in July. And those are the things that we've said in the entry plan and the recommendations, on television, on radio. Every kid will have an opportunity to get the best.
In the past 6 months, and knowing, you know, where you're going with this and what the goal is, in the past 6 months, what kind of steps have you been able to take to help get you to where you want to be?
Team building, and helping individuals embrace our reality. You know, excellence is a relative term. To the individual,
Sure.
excellence can mean a number of different things. But every once in a while, you have to pull a mirror out, and you have to take a long, hard look at who you are and what it is you've been able to produce. Production is a critical component of determining excellence.
Sure.
You're not excellent when you feel like it, not in its entirety. So in that reflective mindset, we've had an opportunity to work as a team and determine what it is we want to be. The past 3 days we've spent in a district visioning process with up to 50 members of the district and the community, trying to have a common understanding of what it is we want excellence to represent.
Sure.
In our kids in our school district. There will be some powerful recommendations coming from that work.
How exciting. I mean, I go back to the first comments when we started the show about what an exciting time in Aiken.
It is.
And to know that something like that is going to be coming forward is very exciting.
We're excited.
Upon being named superintendent, you made a comment that the Aiken County was resource rich.
We are. We are.
So just 6 months in, do you still feel like that?
Absolutely. Even more convinced at this point. You just think about the people, first and foremost. Tremendous talent we have in this town, but then also the opportunities. We have opportunities for growth. We have opportunities as it relates to industrial manufacturing. We have employers. We have high quality opportunities for education, not only K-12, but post-secondary institutions.
Sure.
Very rarely will you find a town that has not one, but two quality post-secondary institutions. It's here. It's here. It's just a matter of us continuing to foster and facilitate conversations to say, how do we make it work to benefit every family?
And I think, again, that's another great segue into my next question. When I read through the entry plan, something that just really resonated with me was the solutions-focused approach that you have, which I think is really powerful. So with Aiken County's graduates, will ideally be these solutions for our community.
Right.
And putting those things together, so under your leadership, how is the school district equipping the students now to meet those needs?
It's a mindset change, first and foremost. Just in the past 6 months, we've really kind of focused on that. And it's not just Aiken, we're just talking about public school in general. Our end goal has been the diploma. We want to help an individual gain the skills so that they can successfully master what it is they need to graduate. But if I'm a small business owner or a job creator in this county, that diploma really doesn't tell me much. It doesn't tell me anything about this potential applicant or a future employee. So as an organization, it's really a mindset shift for us in that it's not just about the diploma. Now, I want to make sure I clarify that. I'm not saying that we're not concerned about kids graduating with a diploma.
Absolutely.
We want kids to graduate with a diploma. But you have to also graduate with a set of skills.
That's right.
That someone is willing to pay you for, so that you can feed and raise a family. You can make an investment. You can own a wonderful home. You can make a contribution to the community, provide some service to someone else. If you don't have the skills, it's going to be tough.
That's right. That's right. That's, I just, the position that you're in as an educator in today's world, and trying to identify and make sure that we give these students what they need, and knowing what the community needs. You don't have an easy job.
No.
But it's obvious that you have a lot of passion for your job. So we're excited about the leadership that you bring, and a new set of eyes as well to come in.
We have a good team. We have a good team. And I think anytime you have, and I think a great example of that would be an intergenerational gathering.
Sure.
You know, you got young folks there who may be able to provide some energy and spark, but then you also have some more mature individuals in that group that can provide some wisdom and guidance. Anytime you bring those things together, you get the best. So it may be a new set of eyes, but you know what? There are some particular things about this community that I don't know. And that's what I love about our team. We've got a great mix, and we'll be able to move things forward.
That's great. We're looking forward to lots of great things. As we're wrapping up today, I'm going to shift gears on you just a little bit. I understand that you have been commuting to Aiken.
I have.
Over these past 6 months.
I have.
And that it's more an hour each way, but that's soon going to change.
It certainly will. I'm excited. The end of March, we should be able to close on our home here in the community. And I'm just looking forward to, on a Saturday morning, going to the auto parts store, going to Lowe's, picking up something, going back to the house, pedaling around in the yard for a little bit, maybe running into some community members in the Bilo or the Kroger or whatever it is. It's nice to be a part of the community.
Sure.
At this point, I consider myself a servant, but until you're here, you're just really not a part. So my wife and I and my children are really looking forward to here. In a matter of 6 weeks, I think it is.
Well, that's exciting.
That we'll be here.
Very good. Well, we're so very glad that you're becoming a part of our community.
Thank you.
That you're impacting our public schools. And we look forward to hearing lots of great things and hope that you'll come back and share the strategic plan with us later on, and just tell us all the wonderful things that are going on with Aiken County Public Schools.
No problem. Just let us know when. Thank you for the invitation.
Great. Thank you so much. And we thank you so much for joining us today for Aiken This Week, and we'll see you next time.